About 9 months or so ago, we started getting together. Cathy, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do for a living, and then we'll take it from there.
So I'm Dr. Cathy Beals, and I am the math coordinator for the Idaho State Department of Education. And my journey to how I got to this job is a very unique experience in a KickAss class.
Yeah. So you, when we started working together, you were starting to peek out over the horizon of maybe there was something a little bit more for you. Tell us about where you were and what was kind of nudging at you.
I'm not sure I was actually seeing the horizon at the time. It felt more like being in the bottom of a hole. Okay. I couldn't see the horizon.
Where is it?
Yeah, I was pretty buried with a lot of, I didn't even know what, but I knew that I needed to do something around Memorial Day of last year. And I actually went back and found that I had saw a video on Facebook that said, "Bring your soul to work" in January. So almost a year ago.
Yes.
A little over a year. And I actually listened to it, and I have pages of notes that I took, but I didn't make the clarity call, but I did stalk you. I listened
to it in a friendly sort of way, I hope.
In a friendly. So I joined the Bring Your Soul to Work group, the free one, and I listened to a lot of videos, and I just felt this draw that you had something I needed and you could help me. And so some things had happened at work that really were kind of had in a pretty low place. I lost a family member. I was fighting a lot with my daughter. My daughter is graduating from high school this year.
Yes.
Taking an empty nest. And I just kind of felt like I was 51 years old and my career was kind of over. And I just didn't know what's next for me. I really had a great job. I had a great salary. Yeah. I was doing meaningful work in the world, but I just was depressed and something was off and I didn't know what it was. So the more I listened to Mo, I felt like I want to talk to this person. So I made that first appointment. I think I changed my appointment about 5 times. Like I back and forth. I will, I won't, I will, I won't. And
she's one of those.
I'm just not a person that asked for help. So it was a really big step to call.
Yeah.
After that first call, it was 90 minutes. And I hung up and told my husband, I know she can help me. I don't even know what I need, but I need help.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's a few things that you just said that we hear pretty frequently. First of all, I'm not used to getting help, or I'm not used to getting help. I'm used to doing it on my own. And you're a PhD or educational doctorate.
Yeah.
Basically, we could call you a math scholar, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so you do know how to figure out a lot of stuff on your own, and you do know how to achieve a certain amount of career achievement. But there was this thing that just didn't feel right. And, you know, it's funny, a lot of people can't really put their finger on it. And, you know, some people who come to my workshop, as you know, because you were in it, lose their jobs. And that's kind of obvious that there's something that needs to get fixed. But in many cases, it's a situation that you were in where it's like, you know, I'm sort of successful. My life sort of feels off. I think there's more for me. The clarity call sound like decent opportunity, maybe, but what am I getting myself into? And so here we get, I think we did the clarity call together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Which doesn't happen all the time. But from time to time, I'm the one who's on the other end of the line. And there was definitely something that you had not gotten to that was in your heart and your soul that you were wanting more of. And a lot of people, and tell me if this was resonating with you, a lot of people in your shoes, a lot of the women I work with, are feeling that there's like an ego level of ambition, that they're sort of afraid that what they want is ego-based and not either purposeful or good enough. Like that, well, I have a decent job. I'm kind of okay. Why should I want more? Isn't that greedy and egotistical of me? Can you break that down for us a little bit? Because I'm sort of thinking that you probably had a little bit of that.
Oh, definitely. I grew up in a very traditional family. My mother was a housewife. My father was a teacher. I'm 7th of 8 kids. We were poor, but didn't know it because we were pretty happy. My family, girls don't go to college. Why would you bother? You're just going to have babies. Literally heard that from my father. And then when I did go to college, he was so excited. But he's like, but when you have babies, you're going to stop working. I mean, and I don't mean that in any disparaging way. It really was just the way life was done in my family.
Yeah.
So for me to even graduate from college was huge. And then I grew up pretty religious. I'm from Idaho. We're a pretty conservative Christian state.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with a lot of rules around women and how women should be. And you know, I think in some ways I spent my life fighting the box, but at the same time feeling like I'm supposed to fit in the box. And it's been a lifetime journey to realize that it's okay to be a leader and be female. But I think for me, where I was in my career, one of the things that I got so much in the way I specifically needed to work with you over. I've worked with other counselors. I have a lot of friends that are pretty high level, you know, women. I have a lot of mentors, but everything that I'd done that got me to the point in my career I was at wasn't working in that highest level of leadership. I needed some new skills, but I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
It was literally the conditioning of a lifetime that was causing me to play it small, I think is how you worded it, and be small, because that's what I was conditioned to be. But then every time I would kind of show up as a leader, I would get so smacked down by other strong women. And then I would kind of go into hiding mode or fear mode. It would trigger a lot of some past abusiveness that I'd experienced from some women in my teenage years. And so it was just a really complicated cycle. And I think I was starting to have struggles at work that I'd had in previous jobs.
Right.
And I always thought it was the other person. And so as I started experiencing them again, I think I realized this is a pattern. And every time I would get to that level of leadership, like I was really starting to have influence, I would back off from it. It would scare me, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to handle the fear, and I didn't know how to develop new skills and new tools. Right.
Right. You know, it's interesting. I think women, a lot of women have your similar background. We misunderstand our own power because it's never been appreciated for us. So we have this force, and it seems like it's not good force. And so when we start to wield it, it sort of gets clumsy, and we go, I don't know what to do with this. I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. And then you're right, we get into these patterns from the past that just take us down. And then we're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have power. Maybe I don't have it. Maybe I was kidding myself. What were some of the things, Cathy, that you learned in bringing your soul's vibration up and really, really, really getting comfortable with your power as a human being? We all have a level of power, and some people have a little bit more calling to play a little bit bigger. What did you start to learn about yourself?
I think the biggest thing, and I say this to myself almost every day, is the difference between being an influencer and a worker.
Yeah.
So, as a high achiever, I'm very comfortable with work. I love work. I actually get a lot of identity from work. I can hide in work. When my father was dying, I wrote my thesis. When my father-in-law was dying, I wrote my dissertation. So work has always been an escape for me. It's kind of my numbing place. I can work 15-hour days and actually be happy because I love to work. But to be a leader, it's about people.
Yeah.
And I love people. I am an extrovert, but I wasn't making that leap from doing the work and being the workhorse in an organization to being an influencer. And that to me was the biggest paradigm shift, that once I got that, and through the course, I learned a lot. It wasn't even learning. I think it was just helping me find my own ways of the way I connect to people, and always have. I love people.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, it was really simple. It was just about showing up as me, being authentic, being comfortable with power.
Yes.
Learning to connect to the people that I influence and enjoying them, and realizing my role is to help them grow. My role isn't to do the work for them.
Mhm.
So, and the more I kind of embraced that influencer mindset rather than a worker mindset, my whole world changed at work. And then all of a sudden work got better and I got better. And then it almost was like they didn't know what to do with me. So like, who are you? Because they never really seen that part of me because I went there and did the work.
Right, right. And that was filling a role, and an important role. When you were in the workshop, you were on sort of a summer break. I forgot if you really take a full summer break, but you were, because you're in the educational world, and your daughter had gone on a trip over the summer, as I recall, and you became a different version of yourself when she got back as well.
She didn't know what to do with me either. She's like, who are you and what have you done with my mother?
I love that.
And I really think that a lot of the reason I was in such a bad spot was she was going through high school was just not a good experience for her. And it's been a long 3 years. She was a junior. And I'd been carrying all that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I also really learned in the course was that it's not my job to do the work for my daughter either. It's my job to influence her and guide her and love her and be my best me and lift her up. But if I'm getting stuck in all the negativity and all the drama with her, I'm not able to be her mom. So kind of what I was learning at work was also what I needed to learn at home. And
there must be a connection.
There must be.
Yeah, it's funny how the soul's journey is the soul's journey, and we don't compartmentalize what our soul's experience is. As much as we might think, oh, when I go to work, I'm Cathy the worker. When I'm at home, I'm Cathy the mom and Cathy the wife. But really, that soul's kind of in its spot. So if we're not happy and feeling like we're kind of not playing full out and not really shiny and happy, we're going to take it everywhere we go. I mean,
but that compartmentalization worked for me for a long time in my life. And going clear back to being a victim of abuse in my teenage years, because victims of trauma, we know how to dissociate and compartmentalize.
Yes.
So
yes, indeed.
It's when all that starts falling apart and your ability to do that. I mean, for me, it was like my ability to keep those buckets in my life separate. As I've gotten older, got harder and harder. And that was another thing that you talked a lot about, how your brain can't do that anymore and live that way anymore as you get older. And that's what I felt like. I was losing my resilience. I was losing my strength.
Yeah.
Because things would bug me so much more than they ever used to.
Right. Well, we can only repress our emotions so long. And the great thing about this beautiful soul that we all have is it sort of keeps kind of like asking for attention. And when it's up against all those repressed emotions and habits of playing in the box that you were told to play in, and you can't this and you can't that, it's kind of like, come on, let me out. Come on, come on. So when you finally did let it out, what did you learn about yourself? What types of things came back to you or got revealed to you that you probably knew were sitting in there somewhere?
Well, I think I clearly remember this. I don't even remember it was with you or with Miliana, or it was on a coaching call, but we were talking about what we love.
Yeah.
And I said, I know this is really weird, but I love math. And people were like, what? Nobody loves math. I'm like, no, I really love math. Like, I've studied how people learn math like for 20 years, and I've done all this stuff with math. And then Miliana's like, tell me more about this.
Yeah, right.
We just had this whole talk, but I was still like, could I really have a job in math? Is there really even a job out there that's full-time math? And like I don't have like a math degree. It's all about education and how children learn math. So it's very much like more like K-8 through Algebra 1, but it's more about how the brain learns math. And I've taught teachers how to teach math. I've taught kids. And it was this whole chapter in my career, and I just loved it. And so when she asked me, like, what's a time in your career what have you loved? I said, it's like math. And so Miliana started calling me the math doctor.
Yes.
Which was really funny because I had high school students, when I taught remedial math, they called me the math doctor. And it was like this reminder of this identity that I left behind about 10 years ago. And I got to this point, like, you know what? I kind of want that back. That was a lot of fun. That was me. Like, I think I just saw these moments in my career where I'd been fully me.
Mhm.
And usually was when I was doing something about either teaching teachers or teaching kids math.
Right, right. And that's such a great thing to have to kind of unearth and see it again. And then, as you know, we kind of help you practice doing more of that. And then eventually you find your power and you find your genius zone. And you did a really great job of articulating your story, your elevator pitch, as we call it. And at about the time that you got your whole story right was when you were going to a conference and interacting with some vendors and kind of being on the playing field a little bit more. And you decided that you were going to be more visible and just have fun with it.
Yeah, I had this opportunity to go to it was a conference for leaders, math leaders from districts in Boston with this national level company. So they invited me to come to this leadership conference. And I was talking to them a little bit about possibly working for them. And it was corporate. I've never worked in corporate. And that's really kind of what drove me to take the class, was I really wanted to be ready for this event in July. And I knew it wasn't just professionally, I knew I needed to personally get healthy to be ready for that. So I did a lot of work getting ready for it. And I went there in July. I had a blast. It was so much fun. And I was just determined to just be myself. And it really was almost a rediscovering of the person I used to be before I had my children. Like, we're talking 20 years. I
remember her.
Yeah, he was like, I know, I remember this person, and started really connecting with her. And then, but it was a little bit confusing because the job opportunity did not feel right.
Yeah.
And I wanted it so badly to work, but my intuition was telling me this just isn't the right fit for me. And that was really, really hard. And I got to come back and go on the coaching calls and talk that through. Really, with the friends in the course, really helped me realize there's something else out there. You're going to be okay.
Right.
But it just wasn't quite what I wanted.
Right. And that's isn't that a fantastic sorting out? When you are in your alignment, you can sort out from a place of certainty, faith, power, alignment, rather than jumping ship because you think you're supposed to want this job better, or you think it's going to solve some of the discomfort that you have in your current job. And as you know from being in the workshop, there's so much of this tends to happen in women's careers. They kind of jump ship thinking that this thing is going to solve that. And so the decisions aren't necessarily made out of alignment and power. Sometimes they're made out of desperation and fear, and I don't have anything better to solve this problem. I'm just going to try this new job. And then you bring yourself to that new job. So not feeling right about it, and I know this because we coached through it, was not out of fear of it or it's too different, I've never done that before. It was out of the fact that you were fully aligned and you did all the work to keep yourself there, and it just wasn't in that lane proper enough for you. And then all of a sudden, another opportunity showed itself.
Which was totally crazy because and even going back to what you just said about leaving one job to solve the discomfort, because 2 jobs ago, I was actually a college professor and I loved my job. But I started hitting up against that same conflict of, I was starting to lead. People didn't really want me to lead, so they kind of pushed me down and I didn't know how to handle it. So I did run. And I took all that job trauma from having experienced some things that were really difficult into my new job. So even when I went to the second job, I wasn't fully me. Because I'd run. I didn't learn new skills. I went as the same person, but I went as a smaller version. So then I kind of started getting better and started growing again, and I started leading. And then I hit up against that same wall. And then that was almost when I like kind of had a breakdown over it. And I did think about quitting and going back to the classroom. Like, I'm not skilled enough to lead. This isn't for me, because this is all in my head. I mean, but I was able to look back and realize I have been here so many times in my career that every time I reach this level of leadership, I don't know how to handle it. And so that was why specifically that you work with women in leadership. And I remember a conversation with you I was really resisting putting math on my LinkedIn profile because I was like, this is too narrow. They'll never get a job in just math. I should put educational leader or instructional design. I mean, there's so many jobs out there that are not math that I'm qualified for. And then you said, well, if I said I'm just a career coach, but I wasn't specific to women in leadership, you would never have signed up. And I'm like, you're right. Really? And so that's when I really started owning. I am looking for a job in math education and math leadership, and somehow it's out there.
Right.
And I was more like living in a state of expectancy and waiting. And I didn't know how long that was going to take, but it was a little uncomfortable at my present job because my people above me knew that I was looking. And that was something that the class and the coaches really helped me navigate, and handling that with positivity and professionalism.
Right, right.
And then out of the blue, I got a text from a friend because I'd been networking, as the course kind of talks to you about doing that. And a friend I'd had lunch with said that the state math coordinator job was opening. And ironically enough, the person who was in charge of the department was a former graduate student of mine. It was like, I got that text and I knew that this is it.
Yeah.
And it was just such a feeling of rightness. And literally, it's been the easiest transition I've ever made. It's been a little bit, I did it on faith. It actually was a pay cut.
Right.
And that was really hard for me to take. It's still hard for me, but it's been amazing how money has been flowing in really weird ways. Not necessarily like in cash, but like just things that were bills that, like my daughter's car, we've had this weird situation that ended up dropping her car payment by $150. So we had to trade one car for another, and like little things that have just sort of freed up money in the month that necessarily in salary.
Yeah, yeah. And then you have some opportunities to do some additional types of teaching and different things. I'm sure that people are eager to have you participate in. Your work right now is so in your genius zone, and you're playing at the big enough field, and you're also allowing yourself to show up ready to play even at the national level, which you recently did. How much fun is it for you to finally be at your bigness, at your level of influence and that sort of thing, Cathy? It's
been almost a spiritual experience. That's the only way I can explain it. Last week, and I actually started my last year at the college, I was starting to get involved at the national scene. I presented at a few national conferences. I consulted with out-of-state school districts, and I think it did scare me back then. Like, I didn't know how to handle that big of an impact on the world. You know, I don't, if I'd had the coaching back then, like I may have made different decisions, but so I ended up, last week I was in New Orleans with the Council of State Supervisors in Math, and I met these people that were like my soulmates. I mean, it was just, I've been in higher ed and that just didn't seem to fit, and then I was in K-12 district leadership and that didn't seem to fit, and this, it's like I found my people, and it was the most amazing feeling. And I got to talk to these just incredible women. I mean, I met this one person, she was from New York, and she's had this full career. And we started talking about who are the marginalized populations in our states. And for our state, there's a lot of Hispanic students and a lot of migrant students that are really not having opportunities in even graduating from high school, but much less, you know, getting to college on math because of their math scores. So the whole idea of this work in the world is really big, and it's a social justice issue. And to be a part of it, and then also realizing that I have something to offer this group of helping kids who struggle and marginalized populations. And so I got to talk to like women that were leading like inner city movements in Louisiana and Alabama, and a lot of work being done around Black communities. It was just incredible. I can't even explain. I felt humbled to be called to something so impactful on the world. Like, this is my life's work. It really is. And I wasn't doing it for so long. And I'm really happy that I'm looking back lately, I've been like, I'm so proud of myself that I made that call, that I got the help I needed, because I'm so much happier than I was a year ago.
Yeah. You know, I like to ask that the question that you just answered, but let's go back to it a little bit. What would you say to yourself now if you were talking to yourself a year ago? What would you say to her?
Gosh, you need help.
Come on, Cathy, you can do it.
I thought, I've just been listening to some of your podcasts coming in on my commute this week, and I've heard you. I thought about that question. I think be authentically you. Figure out who you are and be that person every day. And because that authentic person that God created you to be, or the universe, however your faith tradition believes in your creativity, the whole idea that your creativity is your divine self. I love that concept from you. And the idea that when I am my best self and I'm living as the person God made me to be every day, it actually is an act of worship. It actually is your life's calling. And if you stay true to that always, you will find your path. And the universe will have your back, and you can do things afraid, or you can do things you never thought you'd do, but you have to kind of just be open and take the risk. And I'm still taking a risk financially. I'm still living in that risk, but so far we've been able to pay the bills and everything's working out. And I know that there's more to come, and the better it gets, the better it gets. But I think it's just, I'm still figuring out who that person is. I think it's a journey. I think you're becoming and you're evolving. It's not something that's just a one and done kind of a thing.
Right.
I was thinking about, like, I've grown so much in the last year, but I'm not done. I still have.
You kind of feel like you're almost getting started, huh?
Yeah. I'm just kind of at the start of this, but just learning to listen to myself, learning to trust my intuition, which I've never done. Learning that I don't have to earn my spot at the table. I just have to be authentically me, because I have to find that table that's the work I'm called to do, and then it's just a fit.
Right.
Like the chair's just there for you.
Yes. And the thing that you have to infuse in this whole journey, which you just sort of mentioned it, but I'm gonna really nail it down, and that is that you have to live in faith that what you're being called from your divine self to do and to be, that there is a match, and it doesn't have to be a journey through like hell and back. You have to keep infusing faith in the fact, this is who I am, this is what I'm meant to do, there is a place for me. And math educator, accountant, nonprofit, IT tech woman, marketing, sales. I mean, it's always a drive toward that fit. And you have to have not only faith in yourself, but faith in your creator that it's going to come together. Did you know that there was a group of people who were as passionate about math education as you that existed on this planet, that you could play with them and do good work?
Sort of. Yeah. I think I did.
Yeah. And did you think you could find them?
I wasn't sure how. I didn't think I could be paid and find them.
That's a really interesting distinction, right? A lot of women think that they're going to have to do their passion work for free.
Yeah, and I have done that like my whole career. I've gone to national council, national conferences. I presented, and to have that be my full-time job. Yeah, it was like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do what I love.
What a concept.
Yeah.
If you were to give someone a little sisterly advice from where you are right now in your journey to where they might be a year for where you were, like they're sort of scared, they might have seen something about Bring Your Soul to Work, what would you say to her?
Definitely make the first phone call.
Yeah.
And you cannot get stuck on the money. I am not a risk taker financially, obviously.
Right.
Taking and part of it's like, I grew up in poverty. Like, my family was really poor. So money's a really big deal to me. I'm also I'm a negotiator. I would negotiate contracts for my school district. I negotiate bigger contracts now. Yeah. So paying the money for the class was really hard to pay that much money. I'm not going to lie, but it's the best money I ever spent. it was a complete and total investment in my future.
Yes.
And I had no idea the long-term effect. And I have thrived on the community. The friends I made in the class, we still call each other and text each other
Yeah.
and coach each other because
Yeah.
we can't always access you or
Right.
so we call each other and talk each other off the ledge. And I met these women from all over the country in these really high level jobs.
Yeah.
When they call me and they're having a meltdown, it's like, you just have this impression of these really powerful women being so strong, but we are all dealing with the same thing. And so, like, for me, every dime was worth it because of the community it gave me and the access I have still to help. And I can just put a post in the Facebook group and I get coached from people and we help each other, and it's great. There's so much more, like, you're not even aware of all the private messaging and the phone calls that go on between.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, several of the grads talk to me about it, or when I see them in the different, when I travel around the country, we get together in different venues and that sort of thing. So that's the thing that delights me the most. And what's so great about it is that there's all these women, and some of them are around the world, most of them in the US. You have common language, you have tools and techniques. You're not just girlfriends bitching with each other, which tends to kind of take the lowest common denominator. And the great thing is that the women in the KickAss tribe are actually the highest common denominator.
Well, and I think the common vocabulary is huge because one of the things I've loved about it is that it's women from a lot of different faith traditions.
Yes.
Have given us sort of vocabulary to connect to each other in spite of our diversity.
Yeah.
That's been, I mean, when I started this class, I really had no faith. I mean, I've been a spiritual person my entire life, but I was very cynical because I'd had some damage done to my faith in the past 10 years that I was just kind of at a point in my life where that was a part of my life I'd sort of put on a shelf.
Yeah.
But this course definitely, it was an amazing experience for me of kind of reviving my faith, but also completely redefining it in a much bigger way. So it wasn't as confined to rules as much as this relationship with a higher power and whatever version that is for you. And so it's actually made me a much more tolerant person at work. Because even like the tribe of women in the course that I've connected to, it's made me realize we still need to create that tribe like outside of the course. And so even as in my daily life, I'm so much more, I don't know how to explain it. I think just encouraging to other women and accepting them where they are in their journey, even if they're maybe a little rough around the edges, like realizing I was there once too, and they're just on this journey and we're all in this together. So it's like, it's made me much more aware of women and their struggles and being kind of more of a mentor role to other younger professionals and realizing I have a lot to offer, not just as a professional, but as a person to these women that I work with, that we are a sisterhood.
Yes. Wow. That inspires me in a lot of different ways, Cathy, because one of the things that I know is true with a lot of the women who have gone through this work, they are becoming empty nesters or soon will be. So that mom thing starts to feel, So if you can take that maternal instinct into mentoring and grab a hold of your best self, you're able to use those parts of you that are so natural and normal. And this is where I think a lot of women sort of compartmentalize that sometimes. And when they go to work or they're dealing with their colleagues or peers or at a networking event, they might not bring that out because maybe they think it's not welcome or what do I know or whatever. But when you're in your highest version of you, all the maternal you, all of the smart you, all of the caring you, all of the I want the world to be a better place you gets to show up no matter where you go. And that's the cool thing.
And I think as someone that I did put my career on hold for 20 years and took smaller jobs because I wanted, you know, with where I was at that time in my life, I had, you know, rules that
Right.
this is what the mom I want to be, or this is what I need to do to be a good mom. And so, you know, I think one of the things that I realized is that the last 20 years of raising kids was also something that's making me today, and bringing my experience as a mom, a very devoted mom, into where I am going in my career in the next stage is also part of it. Like, it's the smart me, it's the, you know, the professional me, all these other parts of me, but grabbing onto that mommy me has been a kind of a new force, I guess, that I can bring to the workplace. And that's really helped me with the grief of letting go, because I loved being a mom. I loved being home after school making cookies, and I loved every field trip and, you know, every Halloween. I was into it.
Right. So, there's nothing wrong with that. But there is a time where that's no longer part of your life.
Yeah, and it's hard, but it's so easy after 20 years of raising kids and making choices to always stay in the smaller job, or not working at all for a lot of women.
Yep.
I think it's really easy to think you're kind of done at 50 years old. Like, it's over for me. You know, I'm just going to coast or take a job that pays the bills. And really, you have a whole chapter ahead that could be the most exciting years of your career.
Yeah.
And that was what some of the women I got to meet at this conference, they were like at the end of their careers, but they were like 75.
Oh,
and they were like, you've got so much left to offer. And they were so encouraging to me, like, almost like passing the torch kind of a thing. Like, they've been involved in this work for so long, and they were just so excited to meet me and realize, you know, we're going to pass the torch to you in this organization.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. I am so blessed and inspired to talk with you, to have watched you come back to life, so to speak, to watch you claim your power, to see you being happy and vibrant and looking forward to the journey and each day and the next chapter and the next and the next, and just know that you are filled with all of the soulful abundance that is all of ours. But over a lifetime, it gets pushed down, shoved down, and covered up, and that doesn't feel really good. So I'm blessed that you answered the call, so to speak, and made the call, and that we were able to take you on a journey that brought you back to your highest, most abundant, prosperous, beautiful self. And your smile says it all. So it's just really great. And this is a chair that you sat in a lot in the coaching calls. So I kind of feel like we're back at home in a little bit. It feels really good to see you in your home, and just know what your journey's been all about. Please do keep kicking ass and keeping your soul nice and shiny, and keep being you. I know that there is definitely more for you, in the world needs you and all that you bring to the table. And I've had a lot of fun coaching you, and we had some fun being math nerds and talking about a little bit about math and being kind of funny about that. And it's great to have joy in stuff that a lot of people perhaps kind of shove off. Yeah, math. Okay, everyone's not good at math, and you're bringing joy into it, and possibility, and lifting the world through it. So it's delightful and really, really a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love the word abundance. I've realized that abundance is about so much more than money.
So much more, right? So much more. And you definitely have it glowing about you. Thanks for joining this Motivational Monday. Folks, if you want to get started like Cathy did, it's a clarity call. And that is mofaul.com/strategy, because that's what we do. We dive into what's been going on, and we figure out what do we need to sort out to get you where you want to go. Cathy, thanks again. It's been my pleasure to see you.